Welcome back. Is this simply a constitutional dispute, or has it become one of the most politically sensitive legal battles ahead of Nigeria's 2027 general elections? That is the question many Nigerians are asking after the Court of Appeal reserved judgments in a case that could undermine the future of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, and 4 other political parties. While the courtroom is focused on constitutional provisions, the political implications of the case have become impossible to ignore. On Tuesday, a 3-member panel of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, led by Justice Abba Bello Mohammed, reserved judgments after lawyers representing all parties adopted their final writing arguments. The court said the date for delivering its judgments would be communicated to the parties. Until then, the future of 5 registered political parties remain uncertain. The parties involved are the African Democratic Congress, ADC, the Action People's Party, APP, the Action Alliance, AA, the Accord Party, AP, and the Zenith Labour Party, ZLP. These parties are appealing the judgments of the Federal High Court, which ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to deregister them for allegedly failing to meet constitutional requirements needed to retain their registration. The Federal High Court, presided over by Justice Peter Odolifo, ruled that the parties had not satisfied the electoral performance threshold set out under Section 225A of the 1999 Constitution, as amended. The court consequently directed INEC to deregister the parties, stop recognizing them as political parties, reject any future nominations from them, and prevent them from participating in the 2027 general elections. That decision immediately sent shockwave through Nigeria's political landscape, while some legal analysts argued that the Constitution must be applied equally to all political parties. Others question whether the ruling could significantly reduce political competition before the next election cycle. The lawsuit itself was filed by the National Forum of Former Legislators, NFFL. The group argued that the Constitution places a mandatory obligation on INEC to deregister political parties that fail to achieve certain electoral benchmarks. According to the NFFL, the affected parties neither secured the required percentage of votes in presidential elections, nor won enough elective offices to justify remaining registered. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, supported that legal position before the courts. According to court filings, the Attorney General argued that allowing political parties that no longer meet constitutional requirements to remain registered will undermine the integrity of Nigeria's electoral system and place INEC in continual violation of its constitutional responsibilities. However, the legal arguments are only one side of the story. Outside the courtroom, the case has developed into a broader political controversy. Leaders within the ADC and some opposition figures have publicly alleged that the deregistration efforts form part of a wider attempt to weaken opposition parties before the 2027 general elections. They argue that reducing the number of registered parties could narrow the political space and strengthen the position of larger established parties. Those allegations have added another layer of public debate to an already high-profile legal case. However, the federal government has not accepted allegations that the case is politically motivated. Instead, its position before the court has focused on the constitutional requirements governing political party registration and INEC's obligation under Nigerian law. The controversy has become even more significant because the ADC has recently gained increased national attention through efforts by prominent opposition figures to build broader political cooperation ahead of the 2027 elections. That has led some political observers to view the timing of the legal battle through a political lens, while others insist that constitutional compliance should not depend on political calculations. Adding to the drama is the Court of Appeal's earlier criticism of the Federal High Court's handling of the proceedings. In June, The appellate court granted a stay of execution of Justice Lifu's judgment after finding that he continued proceedings despite an earlier order directing him to pause the case pending the determination of an interlocutory appeal. The Court of Appeal described that conduct as a form of judicial impertinence, noting that the Supreme Court had previously condemned similar actions as inconsistent with proper judicial conduct. Although those remarks related to court procedure rather than the merits of the registration case itself, they drew considerable public attention and further heightened interest in the appeal. The case now raises difficult questions that go beyond the fate of 5 political parties. Should electoral laws be enforced strictly, regardless of the political consequences? Or should courts exercise caution where their decision could significantly affect political competition before a major national election? Supporters of deregistration argue that democracy also requires accountability. They say political parties that consistently fail to win public support should not remain indefinitely on the electoral register simply because they are legally recognized. In their view, enforcing constitutional standards strengthens rather than weakens Nigerian democratic institutions. On the other hand, critics warn that smaller political parties often play an important role in the democratic system by providing alternative platforms, encouraging policy debates, and giving voters more choices. They argue that removing parties from the ballot may reduce political diversity, even if the legal argument appears straightforward. Whatever the Court of Appeal eventually decides, its judgment is likely to become one of the most consequential electoral rulings before the 2027 general elections. A decision upholding the Federal High Court could reshape Nigeria's political landscape by reducing the number of recognized parties. A decision overturning it could redefine how constitutional requirements for party registration are interpreted and enforced. The judges have reserved their decision, leaving politicians, legal experts, and voters waiting for what could become a landmark ruling. When the judgment is finally delivered, it will not only undermine the future of the ADC and 4 other political parties, it could also influence the wider conversation about electoral law, political competition, and the balance between constitutional enforcement and democratic pluralism in Nigeria as the country moves closer to the 2027 elections. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you find this report informative, kindly like, share, and subscribe for more news reports. I'm Chidera Isu. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next report.